Each of the 20 levels in Crash of the Titans have gotten their own retro achievement, which all vary in difficulty. I already made a video very similar to this one, the big difference being the previous one was for the PS2 set. This video is for the far lesser known PSP port of the same game with very minor changes to it. The achievements are for the most part similar to the PS2 version, but the level specific ones have gotten their own flair to them. So let's have a crack at it, shall we? This one may look tricky at first, but that's because Crash doesn't have the necessary abilities to do this from a fresh save. You need to have played at least until episode 4 where you unlock Aku Aku skating, from which Crash can do a roundhouse style kick. That doesn't count as a light nor a heavy attack. Bit tricky, right? Anyway, the only mandatory fight in this stage before encountering the spike is with this bunch of nerds by Aku Aku's cage. So just rush your way through and get there. Just jump on top of your skateboard and don't question how you are skating like Aku Aku while he's clearly in the cage right next to you, and kick the shit out of the 3 waves of nerds trying to stop you. Crash is impervious to small attacks while roundhousing, and small enemies are killed in one kick, but don't worry too much about not taking damage. The spike comes soon after the fight, so simply continue roundhousing on your board until he sees stars. It really is as simple as that. Strap in, this is gonna get weird. But first, play the level as normal until you reach the first snipe. You can stun as many snipes as you want, but you obviously can't jack any of them. Make your way to the very tip of the wooden bridge and stand on the rightmost side of it. There's a little bit of invisible overhang you can stand on to jump across. There are a few key factors to consider in this jump. Number 1, do a backflip into a double jump. Let the backflip reach its apex to get as much distance as possible, then activate your double jump. Again, let it run its course until just before Crash starts to descend, then start gliding. The second key is to jump off the bridge diagonally to the right. You can see the path to the next section is slightly curved, so jumping diagonally just takes a more straight, shorter line. I'm failing a ton, but I promise this is how to do it. At first, I didn't understand why, because I did this 2 years ago. Here's some old footage to prove it. I just tried recreating it for the sake of, validating that this is indeed the way you're meant to earn this achievement. I just couldn't for some reason. Then I noticed Crash was moving almost in slow motion when I was simply walking diagonally. I thought it was strange, but maybe my PC just couldn't handle the emulation. Looking at the rest of the game, nothing else was slowed down though. It didn't sound very plausible to me, but maybe something was going on with RetroArch under the hood. So, in a desperate attempt, I decided to install the standalone PSP emulator, PPSSPP, and just try doing the same thing on that. Only for me to do both jumps on the first try without issues. Sounds crazy, right? I mean, I suppose I did get a new controller since the old footage from 2 years ago, so maybe the new one just isn't compatible with RetroArch? Or something? Regardless, the majority of the rest of the guide was recorded on PPSSPP. Now that that's out of the way, let's move on to the second jump, which is a lot trickier than the first. It seems counterintuitive, but you want to be on the right side again. There's what feels like a single pixel that'll launch Crash extremely high in the air when you do a backflip, allowing you to just barely cross the gap. Oh, and make sure you glide towards the left of the next platform, since that hangs a bit lower. It is honestly a tough jump, but you can fall and die as many times as you need while trying to get it. You'll respawn just before the second jump every time, provided you don't get a game over anyway. This one isn't that tough. I was even considering leaving it out of the video, but that also feels weird, so let's quickly go through it. You can easily stun the first snipe with the Jack Mask. There aren't many mandatory fights until way later, so you can just skip the upcoming spike as well as the nerds on the swinging bridge. For the next spike, you get a free Jack Mask to take him out. Now, the achievement specifically says not to take damage as Crash, meaning the Titans you jack can take as many hits as you'll let them. So feel free to jack this guy if you don't think you can handle the upcoming nerds without being hit. After gliding down, simply reflect this guy's feather back at him, then jack him. You can animation cancel after an attack by blocking, letting you shoot way faster than normal. Then just take up the targets and the opposing snipe and continue forward. In the arena, take out the nerds by spinning. Crash is immune to small attacks while spinning, so they pose no threat whatsoever. After dealing with the 4 nerds, a wave of spikes will spawn. You can use the Jack Mask on top of these crates on the right to one-shot any one of them, then jack him and you're safe for the rest of the fight. The next fight doesn't have a convenient Jack Mask to use, so you'll have to abuse Crash's iframes when doing a heavy attack, or stun lock the Titans with a spin attack. Either way, jack a spike as quickly as you can to stay safe for the rest of the fight. After jacking the gore and taking down the ball, you're done with all the fighting in this stage. However, there's a bit of, in my opinion, tricky platforming ahead. For the most part it's not an issue, but I found this jump near the end surprisingly difficult and it was here most of my attempts died. I recommend being patient and weighing down the seesaw platform to raise it towards the next platform, giving you a little bit of extra height when you go for the jump. Of course you should wait for the platform in front of you to lower down. Not as quick as I'd hoped, but now you can't say it's not included in the video. There are very limited spikes in this stage, so I'll skip ahead to the first one. Hitting the first switch spawns the spike. The game intends for you to jack him and break the brittle wall, but what you're gonna do instead is rage bait him simply by existing in front of the wall. He will then attack through you, involuntarily breaking the wall for you. Now just hit the switch and continue as normal. The next instance of any spikes is at the final fight at the end of the stage. This fight is wave based and you must defeat all enemies before the next wave begins. So knock out each and every spike you see until the gore spawns in the third wave. He's kind of big, but Crash can knock him out with a couple of heavy attacks. Or by getting lucky and using a randomly dropped jack mask. Now just jack him, then the octopus, and beat the level. Not bad at all. There really isn't a lot to this one. Just play carefully and avoid combat as much as possible. There aren't any mandatory fights in the stage, so that part shouldn't be too hard. I recommend you avoid the speed boosting feathers on the skateboarding sections, since Crash becomes kind of difficult to control and entirely unpredictable when midair. In a tunnel near the end of the first section, you can make use of the tunnel walls to get up a little bit higher before jumping, which should make it easier to avoid the rows of bombs. It's totally possible to simply double jump over them though. The next part introduces the Rhino Roller for the first time. Be careful after his intro cutscene because he will hit straight for you. Do a backflip double jump to jump straight over his roll, then just continue straight past him. No reason to fight him or the koalas. The upcoming saw blades is where you really need to be patient. They are seemingly programmed in such a way that they will always start moving down with just the correct timing to hit you every single time. So pull back, slow down, and let it do its thing. Then move past it. This holds true for practically every single saw blade, so when you think, I can make it, just barely, think again, because you can't, and you'll have to start level over if even one of them hits you. Later on, the saw blades will start moving horizontally on a cycle instead of vertically. Once again, let them do their thing, then jump over the gap they're sawing. Also, you can safely take out the koalas on the track with a single roundhouse kick. So yeah. Being patient is boring and slow, but it's the only way to get this achievement. As a bonus, if you're missing just a single spy cam from this level, it's probably this one right here. Anyway, run to the end and you should get yourself a new achievement. This one's a real doozy. I'll even go as far as to call it RNG dependent, which is not exactly what you want to see. There aren't any koalas in the ring at the start until you're Jackass Knight. So these guys, just don't touch them, alright? Should be easy enough. Same goes for this guy at the waterfall and the guys at the outhouse. Now comes the trouble. You need the Rhino Roller to destroy the rocks blocking your way, and there's no way to get him to break them for you. However, 6 koalas will spawn the moment you jack him, causing all sorts of issues. 6? That's not a problem, you might think. But you have to kill 7 koalas just a bit further on in order to progress, giving you a hard limit of 3 accidental murders at the roller. If any more than 3 koalas die in this area, you're gonna have to start the level over from the beginning. Anyway, before any of that, I recommend you activate the guide stone on the other side of the rocks before jacking the roller, since a cutscene will always play on the first read, and the koalas can still fucking attack each other during the cutscene. So just get it out of the way. You, the player, must use the roller's special attack to break the rocks, and it's entirely up to the koalas if they get in your path or not. They'll do their best to circle around you and hit you with their attacks, often killing each other in the damn process. Once the wall breaks, you should interact with the guide stone immediately to stop the roller's attack as early as possible so you won't accidentally take any lives. Now to unjack, you must move away from the guide stone. I recommend you take the roller's life by spinning the analog stick before pressing circle so the koalas won't be enticed into attacking it. Now it's all about crossing fingers that the stupid koalas won't commit collective suicide while you scale the wall. See what I mean? Here, you must defeat all the 7 koalas to release the Shelephant, which you need to break down the metal door. Don't be too quick about it though. If you get too close to the door while on the Shelephant, even more koalas will spawn on the other side. You can stop them from spawning in completely by breaking the door from as far away as possible using your special attack. Don't worry if you're too far away, as your special meter will recharge over time. You can even use your emulator speed up function to help a bit. When the door is down, jump off your elephant friend and move forward as Crash. Only spikes should spawn this way. Jack the spike by the next door and take out the waves of spawning spikes after. Eventually, a new shellfish will spawn for you to use, who won't call in a koala backup squad. Next up is the skate section. 5 koalas will spawn on the track, but you can easily get around them. Just be sure not to kick them. They'll survive a bump, but not a kick. Good fucking luck on this one. You'll likely need it. This one won't be a problem if you've already played the PS2 set. Jack the first Magmadon and then use him to break down this wall. You'll need him again in a bit, so keep him around. At the other side of the tunnel, use your new hot friend to destroy this orb thingy, and the next one after that. You can simply walk across the lava to get there, if you didn't know. Unfortunately, he's not very skilled at platforming, so you'll have to leave him behind after breaking the second orb. At the end of the platforming section, you'll find a destructible mission object. But oh no, Crash is much too frail and weak to break it, and we're not allowed to jack any more Magmadons. Just trick one of the nearby Magmadons to do your dirty work for you. This goes for the next orb as well. Moving along, a bunch of snipes will try to stop you. Don't jack even a single one of them. Unlike the PS2 version where you only had to reach Tiny, the PSP version requires you to entirely complete the level, and you need your single use of a snipe later to do that. Once you reach this wall, the game will tempt you even further with yet another snipe and a target right next to him. However, using your sick gamer skills, you can easily jump up the pipe right behind the snipe without needing to destroy the target. At the quote-unquote tiny boss fight, you need to trigger the switch over here in order to spawn the snipe you need. Instead of jacking a Magmadon and walking over to it like the game intends, you can jump off the back of this broken down truck. Same story goes when you need to get back. Now just jack the snipe, destroy the targets, and use the snipe to knock out the incoming shellfish, which you need to complete the level. Not too difficult, eh? Alright, this one is pretty self-explanatory. While this is the first stage where you encounter stenches, you don't really need them to complete it. You can just rush on through past everything and everyone until you reach the watery arena at the end of the level. Then jack the first spike that appears, then the Magmadon a few waves later, and finally the gore which you need to open the level's exit. In fact, you don't even need to jack a spike or Magmadon, since Crash can stun the gore perfectly fine on his own. This stage is heavily focused on wave-based arena fights. In the first fight, it is really just a matter of preference whether you want to use a Magmadon or Stench to get the Scorporilla at the end. I guess one of them could also be considered a backup should you somehow get the first one killed. Somehow. Anyway, fight through the endless waves of enemies with the Titan of your choice, then finally jack the Scorporilla to continue forward in the level. You don't technically need to jack any more Titans from this point onward, but I do highly recommend jacking a Sludge in the upcoming slime fight just because of the sheer amount of them there. If you're playing on normal difficulty, this fight becomes a series of one-on-ones. A series of which you can easily win each and every fight by using the Sludge's square-square R+square combo over and over. Eventually, the Sludges will stop spawning and you can just run to the end of the level, bagging another fairly easy achievement. This one can be a bit tricky purely because of this combat-heavy game has really bad combat mechanics. Make sure to dodge the missile in the first part, as it always goes in your path, so just zigzag your way forward if you're having trouble. Next, there's literally a jack mask you're almost forced to pick up when jumping into the sludge pit. Using the spin attack with a jack mask equipped will insta-stun any Titan on the very first hit while you're still mobile. Then just jack a sludge and use the good old square-square R+square combo to defeat the rest of the enemies. I don't know why, but it feels like fewer missiles drop on this part of the beach compared to the PS2 version. I mean, I'll take it. The wall running section can be a bit tricky because I can't sense depth in this game at all. Seriously, there's a distinct lack of shadows all throughout. Anyway, be careful and try to time your movement in between the bombs. Afterwards, you can just rush through and ignore every other enemy until the final arena fight. I recommend skating past them so they can't catch up to you. In the arena, skate over to the front walls over here and jump up using a backflip. There's a sorta hidden jack mask up here that you can take full advantage of. I chose not to risk it and jack a sludge instead of jacking the Scorporilla straight away and then using the sludge to stun it. The achievement stage Crash can't take damage, but whatever Titan you control can take as many hits as you'll let it, so taking a sludge first is safer, I think. Once you're in control of the Scorporilla, you've practically done it. Okay, I'll just come right out and say it. I don't know if this is the intended method to get the achievement, but But, I'm 100% following its description. Once you reach the first raticle of the game, jack him, take out any other enemies, and very importantly, do not break the next ice wall. Once the monkeys stop spawning, hop off your raticle friend and let him expire. In order to prevent you from soft-locking yourself, the game will spawn a backup raticle for you to jack until you destroy the wall. So you jack him, and then you get off and let him expire. Over and over, and over, and over, and over, and over, and over, and over. Until finally your hard work is awarded with an achievement for doing it 20 times. Congratulations! This one's kind of self-explanatory, but I'll quickly go over it. Trick the first raticle into breaking the generators by existing in front of them. Ignore the stenches on the platforming section, which, fun fact, is proof this is the PSP version, because there are snipes on the PS2. Next up is some good old-fashioned fighting. I recommend playing on normal difficulty because, as previously mentioned, every fight becomes a series of one-on-ones. Either spin to stun lock the titans, or use your heavy attacks to get through when they block. Not too hard. The end is the same as the beginning, just trick this guy into destroying the targets for you, unlocking the end of the level. Very straightforward achievement. This one is fairly similar to its PS2 counterpart, except you can use the titans as many times as you want, except for this guy. Generally, it's not an issue and you can play the level completely normally. If you've played this game on PS2, then you know this level is completely unbeatable without the stench, entirely because of this target, which the raticle can't reach and the stench won't shoot on his own. In the PSP version, however, the target is for whatever reason lower on the wall, and so the raticle can in fact reach it with his heavy attack. What a strange change. For the final fight, you can easily reach the high up target using the sludge's R plus square attack, just like on the PS2. Easy peasy cheapsy.
Okay, it's done.
I ain't got nothing for you on this one. Just get good. Just like all the other don't take damage as crash achievements, do whatever you can to avoid combat by running past your enemies. Just be careful on this first vine. The bunnies can reach you if you swing back. Anyway, you can easily dodge the bombs on the skate track by zigzagging since they're all placed on alternating sides of the track. The next group of bunnies can easily be helicoptered over, and the next group after that poses negative threats. The next skate track has more fairly easily dodgeable bombs, and you can kick the bunnies to defeat them in one shot should they get too close for comfort. Next up is the only real challenge of the level, stunning a sludge's crash. I found the best technique for fighting sludges is this uppercut mask slam combo, then taking a small breather to see if the sludge retaliates. Your animation locked when you perform the uppercut, so you can't block his counterattacks if you're doing it. You can, however, block his uppercut with Aku Aku, giving you a fighting chance. Once you have him, you can easily use his powers to defeat the onslaught of upcoming enemies. And that's basically it. There's a few bunnies on the road afterwards who can easily be uppercutted, and the final titan you meet gives you a free jack mask immediately beforehand. This one's pretty self-explanatory, so I'll cut to where I imagine most people, if any, would get stuck, right here with the Scorporilla. There are no rollers here. In fact, the only titan here you can stun as Crash is the Battler, another subtle and weird change from the PS2 version, where there are stenches. Anyway, like any other challenge disallowing your control of certain titans, just stand in front of whatever is blocking you, in this case the Skull Gate, and let them do the work for you. I think maybe if you use the dodge mechanic by blocking and moving the analog stick in any direction you get iframes, but I'm honestly not too sure. I never used it, and probably never will. Anyway, there are no titans after this gate, so you're good to go from here. Literally, the only titan that spawns before the boss fight is the electric, so I'll just cut to that. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know why you would use a battler for this fight. I've always only ever used the ranged titan, since Uka Uka will one-shot you if you get in too close. I got no tips for you here, maybe with the exception that if you time it correctly, you can interrupt Uka Uka's special attack with your own, but it is not of much use. Have fun!
Not that part. I love that part.
The first step is obviously to jack the electric near the beginning of the level and stay with him as long as possible. Now, if you've fought against multiple raticles before, you know how you stand no chance if any of them freezes you. So to avoid that, you can stand still atop this here ledge and defeat all 8 waves of enemies without dropping down. It takes a while, but it's the safest option. The raticles will sometimes spawn in a sort of triangular formation, with one of them almost directly below you. To hit him, you can shoot a bolt somewhere in the middle of the arena, then activate your special without targeting anything. This way, you'll call down 4 lightning bolts that'll slowly travel forwards in front of you, hitting anything in their path. In the end, I couldn't quite hit these guys in the corners, so I ultimately dropped down and decided to do the rest of the fight as Crash, since it was almost over anyway. Which is still legal. The achievement doesn't say I have to keep the electric alive, so there's that. If you, like me, lose your Titan, you'll have to lure over the following raticle and have him break the gate for you. And again with the next one. Other than that, the level is over aside from fighting a few brats, but there aren't any more Titans for you to accidentally jack. Man, did I struggle with this one. For the most part, it's not too bad, but you have to be aware of this electric that spawns on the bridge. You can stun lock him immediately by pre-spinning into him. I recommend you jack him, though it'll only be for a short while, and defeat the brats in upcoming electric. Jack it and defeat the next one again. The reason for jacking Titans repeatedly like this is that you are protected from taking damage as Crash as long as you are in control of a Titan. The more often you are on a Titan, the less likely you are to fail the achievement. As usual, be patient when fighting sludges, as they continue to have a bad tendency to counterattack after your combos. In fact, it might be a good idea to use the sludge costume for this specific achievement. You'll see why later. As a sludge, you can easily take out most of the Titans with the single use of square R plus square combo, which I promise will make life a lot easier for you. It even auto-targets. After swinging on a couple of ropes, you should jack the electric that spawns. Again, it's for safety, and there are a lot of magmadons you can take out ahead of time, avoiding their potential threat entirely when you have to jump over the liquid hot magma. Next is what by far is the most troublesome part of the level in my opinion, skating through this trap-filled tunnel. My best advice for you is to remain vigilant and be patient at the flamethrower parts. The first 4 traps have gaps between the flames where they can't hit you at all, and the 5th trap is a matter of timing a jump over the gap after the 2 shots. It'll shoot out 2 pairs of flames in quick succession, then have a small break where you can pass. The final trap also has gaps on either side for you to use. Just be careful not to hit any bombs instead. Here's where the sludge costume might come in handy. You have to defeat a couple of waves of enemies on this tiny platform in the middle of the lava lake, where multiple sludges will spawn. Luckily, it's just one at a time. Regardless, I didn't use the costume, so I had to be careful about blocking the sludge's counters, dodging the brats' megaphone attacks, and doing whatever I could to stun lock all enemies as much as possible. It's not an impossible task, but it would definitely have been easier if I could simply one-shot the Titan. Once you're in control of the sludge, the rest is a piece of cake. After platforming to the next area, make sure to deflect the first electric bolt back at him before jumping to his platform. I found some inconsistency with deflecting while gliding anyway. Once you've jacked this guy, you can easily use him to take out the rest of his squad, all in the safety of his health bar in place of your own. I have no idea why my cursor is bugging out here, by the way. It's aiming perfectly where it's supposed to be, you just can't see it. I'm assuming it's some setting in PPSSPP. Regardless, after defeating the swarm of eels, you get to have a bit of a breather. I couldn't tell you why, but unlike the PS2 version of this game, the second skate section in this stage does not have any traps for you to avoid, with the exception of a few mandatory gaps of course. It shouldn't be a problem for you this late in the game. This upcoming part is my absolute favorite part of the level. You gotta take out the waves of rats on the first platform here before anything else of course. Be extra aware to avoid their megaphone attacks. Even though Crash is mostly invincible while spinning, the noise of a mutant rat screaming through a megaphone is still enough to hurt him. Defeating all 8 rats triggers the next platform to lower, and the fight it brings is much easier to deal with. The enemies on this platform are more bloodthirsty than most and will approach Crash with violent intent, completely disregarding their surroundings. Simply get close to the edge and they will run towards you and into certain doom without you lifting a finger. You might have to jump out and glide back to trigger the most faraway enemies, but still, super silly this works, but I had a good laugh when it happened. The same goes for the next platform of course. These platforms are also the place to get the 200 combo achievement by the way, which is way more detailed in my PS2 video. Now that the fun part's over, I strongly recommend that you don't try to use the gears to skip the magmadons. I found they sink too deep and will burn Crash's butt, so it's much safer to rush past the group of enemies with your skateboard, then finally just run to the finish. I know this part was kind of long, but I struggled a lot with it myself, so I wanted to give some detailed advice for it. I hope it was worth it.
Time to start the fun.
For the 20th and final achievement, you need to have already completed the game on hard difficulty. The reason being that you unlock the free kick ability, which is like always having a jack mask. But for now, let's tackle the obstacle in front of us. The Scorporilla is illegal, so defeat the mandatory enemies however you see fit. Then, trick the Scorporilla to break the wall for you, as you've done so many times by now. At Nina, simply walk up to her as Crash and unleash your overpowered free kick by hitting the L button. She's tough, so she needs 2 kicks to be stunned.
Oh, I'll just go ahead and fix that with duct tape.
And that's it. No secret trick. No stupid glitch like the PS2 version. Just beat the game on hard first, and then it's practically 3 points. And that's all there is to it. Some of the cheevos, endangered and loving it in particular, are very annoying to get, but the rest are generally not that challenging all things considered. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more retro achievement related gameplay. See you next time.